Now this is a nostalgic sight. Seeing these here like this on this table, it definitely fills you with memories. Welcome back everyone to YellowCard TCG. I'm Zistral. Here we're bringing you some YellowCard combos hot off the press. As we've all seen from the recent reveals of History Collection releasing in May in Japan, and hopefully soon after that in English, all of the original GE bosses and their first on-hit strides have had erratas and are now playable again. So if you don't know what the changes are, you can look at one of the many other YouTube content creators for Vanguard who have covered the changes in more detail than we have. We'll also link some resources down the description where you can read about these. But the TLDR is that the new on-hit strides can be strode upon immediately for the giftless G-era bosses, and then all of their on-hits now activate regardless. This opens up a lot of gameplay and deck building perspectives, and rather than talk about the impact, I'm going to assume that everyone here knows every card, and we're just going to dive deep down into it and show you exactly some of the potential of these new effects. So let's jump straight into it and you can see what we're working with. So first up is Gear Chronicle. And for those of you who were playing the game back in 2016, this may bring back some unpleasant memories, but as you can see here, our Time Leap friends are back and in greater force. So all of the strides have the same effect, which is you can discard to go into that specific stride if you haven't acquired a gift. So we're going to go into Lost Age off of Chronojet, which will Persona Flip, which immediately turns on GB2 and gives us 2 force markers. So here we're going to go for 2 force ones. You can put them both on one column, but just to demonstrate the bare minimum, like this is not even the best you could do. I don't play Gear, so I haven't put any effort into optimizing this, but this is just from me remembering, here's what you could do back in 2016, and now you can do the exact same thing, but with 2 force markers while your opponent's on grade 2, which to me is absolutely insane. But we're going to put them here because you'll see why in a second. We're going to make Melon, move these out of the way just so that you can see, and TikTok. And a little bit of rulings for those of you who may not have been playing the game back then. So Melon, when she attacks, she immediately gains 4k, and then at the end of the battle, she sets up what I'm going to refer to as a delayed trigger. The actual terminology and the comprehensive rules is a little bit different, but basically she makes a new ability which triggers at the end of the battle once she attacks. So also note that her returning to the deck isn't part of the cost, so even if she's not on the board anymore, as long as she declared an attack, at the end of that battle, no matter what happens, you will search your deck for a grade 0 and call it to rear. Meanwhile, TikTok also has an effect that happens at the end of battle, which is that he goes into Soul, and then you time leap one of your rear guards. And this way, you can time leap the Melon and still get a grade 0 because she still sees the grade 1 go to bind, and she still saw herself attack, and that's what lets you get the grade 0. So this is going to make this relatively simple column, and we're just going to declare an attack. Now, this is only 16, and 16 isn't an amazing number back in the days of early premium. It was great back in G, because everything was 5k shield, and that was at least 2 cards to guard as long as it was no trigger. But now we have the force marker backing it up, and if you want to stack both, this would be 36 against your opponent's 10k base, and that is a problem. Like, even without this force marker, 16 alone is already 10k shield for your opponent to guard on grade 2. So having 26 from the force marker makes it even harder to deal with. Like, one trigger won't even deal with that anymore, because that one trigger is 15k shield. So they need either a grade 0 heal or some other pieces of shield to get on top of that. But we'll attack, and at the end of the battle, Melon is going to try and return herself to the deck to call a grade 0, but first, we're going to use TikTok to time leap the Melon. And this lets us search for a grade 2, so I'm going to search for our good old friend History Maker. And in this case, I'm actually going to search for Wata, Rested, just because I'm reenacting the old 2016 combos. Nowadays, you'd probably search for another TikTok and then time leap History Maker into something else. You'd have something else on the board that History Maker can time leap, but that's extensions that I'm not going to go into. So we make this, and now the biggest problem with History Maker back in the day is that he didn't get any power. So he was just 9k, so he needed some form of boost or some other form of power pump to actually hit your opponent's Vanguard. And History build was very good for that because it gave your time leap units power pump. But now you have the force marker on your opponent's grade 2. This is still 10k shield to guard, at least. So we're going to attack with the History Maker, whose effect will counterblast 1 to bind the Urwata and Time Leap into another melon. We're going to search, grab this other melon onto the Force marker, shuffle, then Urwata will return itself to the deck to draw 2. Oh, look at that. And shuffle. So then there's going to be 19, and we still have the melon on top, which can attack 1 more time for some number, whatever you want. It's going to be some, and go back to this one. Is going to go back to the deck and pull out a grade 0. So this grade 0 comes in rested, so it doesn't do as much. But the thing to note about all these new persona crits, as we used to call them back in the G format, is that these have been errated. So they now give 10k power on trigger check, and have 15k shield, and draw you a card when you damage check them. So I'm pulling this out here just to show you that there's an errata to the crits as well. But this is just still something cool you can do. You can either pull out more TikToks again, or more Watars, and do all sorts of shenanigans. But then we're going to attack with Vanguard to get triple drive. 1, 2, 3. Again, on your opponent's grade 2. This sets up GB2, which means anything that requires GB1 already is immediately online, like the flip G guards, like any form of like defensive options. You no longer need to fight for first stride. It's now just get there, which is really cool. And this is, again, 3 really huge attacks on rearguard, all of which would require at least 10 to 15k shield, and without any extensions. And believe me, it's only going to get more absurd from here. Next up is my personal favorite, which is Link Joker. And this is actually a combo that we've explored before, back when Tempest Sphere and Zarzan were legal, which is enabling early GB, so that you can use the G Link Joker pieces, being Dunamis and Sacrifice, with all of the V Link Joker pieces, being Gastro, Volko, what have you. And now we can do the exact same thing, just on turn 3. So here we're on Alter Ego, we're going to discard to go into the new Judgment, whose effect will flip 1 and generate us 2 Force markers. So we're going to put these on rears. You can also put one of them on the Vanguard circle as well, but definitely you want one on the rear to abuse with the Volko. And again, just reminding you one more time, this is against your opponent's grade 2. You're hitting them with 30k 2 crit Volkos on their 10k defensive. So they need to have heal guardians, they need to hit defensive, maybe hit their over trigger to realistically survive this. But we're going to go for the full combo here. So I'm also going to note the fact that we've been damage denied this time. We don't have a lot of counter blast to play with. There's only so much you can do. So we're not even going to use Messiah's on stride skill. We're going to save the 1 counter blast for Gastro. And it also means that we'll be able to have enough soul for Dunamis. And we can refund the counter charge with Sacrifice, so we could have done if we wanted. But I'm going to pretend that we're not, just to show you like full extension. So we're going to set up the board like this. And we're going to attack. Counter blast 1, lock the Volko and draw. And then this is some number. The Sacrifice can then lock itself to counter charge, which is nice, not needed, but nice to have. And then give some power to Vanguard or something. Then you can attack with Vanguard, and because the Vanguard now no longer has to hit, that's the other errata the strides have, their effects activate when they don't hit as well. You choose an opponent's back row and lock it, and then choose up to 1 lock card and unlock it. So you can now unlock this Gastro you just put down and start attacking with it. Now if this Sacrifice was here, and we had a second Dunamis behind the Gastro, you could unlock this Volko straight away. But again, I'm just trying to show you base combos here. Like, we're not trying to show like optimum, maximum anything. This is just a glimmer of what is possible. We're going to hit our drive checks, which are going to be cool. Again, these new 10k triggers. So we can either put it all on Vanguard to be a 56k body, or put it all on the Gastro to be a Volko, sorry, to be a 60k body. Of course, it will lose the trigger powers because it locks itself, but where we're going, it's going to be more than enough. You're going to swing your opponent with some big number. At the end of the battle, Gastro will lock himself, and then Dunamis, Soul Blast 1, lock itself to unlock the Gastro, and attack with the Gastro again. Now, like I said, if we had a second Dunamis or anything like that, you could easily get to 3, maybe even 4 Volko swings with Force 2s on the turn like this, if you high roll properly with like Lagrangiards. This is just like, even this, which is 2 30k Volko swings with crit 2 on your opponent's grade 2 turn, even if your opponent is on a 10k base and they use a heal guardian to get up to 20k, that's still 2 lots of 25k shield they need, or they're taking 2 to 4 damage that turn. That's really scary. And if you had even more counterblast and bodies on the board, you could actually use Alter Ego's on stride effect to lock one of yours and lock one of theirs and shut down an entire of their columns going into their next turn. And if that wasn't good enough, Volko will lock himself at the end of the battle no matter what. Then during the end phase when you destride, because these flip themselves, you're now GB2, which means Messiah's end of turn effect goes off. You'll unlock 3, which means you'll Soul Blast 3, and draw 3 cards. So in this case, being on the 11k body is completely made up for by all these cards you're drawing, which is insane. And again, we're drawing 15k shields because of this errata. I'm so excited to try this out and like figure out optimal play patterns and lines. And I assure you, once I figure these out, maybe even I might wait for the Messiah deck set to come out, but once this is figured out, you will see a follow-up yellow card combos on everything you can do in Link Joker going forward. So now we move into the world of Axel 2, and this is where things get really, really insane. As you've been following up until now, the new strides generate you 2 gifts of whatever the clan's respective gift type is, and Axel 2's draw you a card. So these strides are just Pot of Greed. But it gets even better, because in Narakami, we have access to one fun little strike called Stunverse, which puts itself back into the G zone. And the notable thing about the new errated strides is that you can just act stride onto them at any point during your main phase, as long as your Vanguard is the G era boss. So here I'm going to show you the full multi-double stride, multi-attack, wombo combo turn. And once again, this is bare minimum combo. As you may know from playing V Premium, or everything that Vanquisher does in V Premium is all about binding cards from hand and calling them. So you have tons of rearguard multi-attacks going on as well. So even though the hand here doesn't contain a lot of gas, in reality you're going to have Jaggy Shots, Chaturas, Rock Climb, Chain Bolt. The possibilities are endless. I put a Gaiban here on the board, because again I want to highlight, Gaiban is not once per turn. So you can get, when you get your 2 Vanguard swings, you can additionally apply these onto your other rearguards that you will be multi-attacking with and get additional Sentinel restricts, all the while getting the additional benefits of having strides and gift markers at the same time. But in this case, I've talked a lot so far in this video about swinging into your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, but now we're going to talk about going to your opponent's grade 3 Vanguard, or what happens if they give you first stride, and what you can do with these strides. So it's our turn, we've drawn, we're going to stride like normal into our good friend Stunverse. Stunverse is a good card, you know, Soul Blast 1, flip a G unit, he goes back, we get to draw a card, our opponent loses a card, binds a bunch. Basically, striding Stunverse already gives you a stride's turn's worth of value. That's the main thing to remember here. But we're going to go even further, because now we're going to discard 1 to act stride into Zoras, because there's no restriction on our opponent's Vanguard grade. Zoras will flip himself, because we're on the original Vanquisher, and generate us 2 Axel markers. They're very cool. We're going to draw 2 cards. This is great. And because we're still on Vanquisher, this full Bronto in our hand can still go off. We're going to slam down this Voltex Shred here, and again, our hand would normally be full of multi-attack, extenders, we'd have Rising Phoenixes on the board, you'd be doing a lot more than just this. I'm just showing you the bare minimum. We're just going to put down one of these triggers, because why not? And then going to attack with our Vanguard. At the end of this battle, Gaiban will proc, giving Sentinel Strike to someone. We unfortunately can't give Sentinel Strike to the Vanguard because we're going to rewrite into full Bronto and lose that effect. But like I said, you will have loads of bodies on the board that you can give the effect to, and having multiple Vanguard swings with Sentinel Restrict and being able to do this against your opponent after getting first stride and shredding their hand with Stunverse is already insane. But we're going to do our drive checks. Once again, these have been errated to be big triggers with big shields, so all these bodies that we've put to the board are getting huge. And that kind of counteracts the weakness that we would have seen if we had done a normal Stunverse V Vanquisher full Bronto turn. But with that in mind, I'm going to swing here. We purposefully left Res F to boost the Voltex Shred to make good numbers, because right now this is 13 plus triggers, which does hit our opponent's grade 3. But at the end of this battle, I'm going to Soul Blast 1, bind 1, draw 1, then effective full Bronto, pitch 2, and ride full Bronto as stand, generating yet another Axel, gaining more power to the board, and continuing with your multi-attack combo chains. Here we can swing this again after giving the +10 to the board on place. Rasef will go into Soul to draw a card. We'll then be able to do our drive check. And then Gaiban can then give Sentinel Strike to someone else, like say the Jaggy Shot or the Rock Climb, before we continue. So this has been 2 attacks, 3 Axels. We went from 4 cards in hand to 5, even after discarding 2 and rewriting 1. And at the end of turn, when you rewrite a Vanquisher, sure, you don't get any other Excel, you're an 11k base, not a 12k, but there's still all these insane things to go on. And I forgot to even mention actually, because you're striding on Vanquisher twice, once with Stunverse and once with Zoras, you get to use Vanquisher's on stride, counterblast 1, bind something twice. So you're already fueling Bind Zone for Stunverse, for your Thunderstrike 4, Bulwark Dragons, whatever else you want to be doing, Anastasia PG even. Like, it's all super synergistic. So that's, you know, doubled value on your stride effects, double value on your Gaibans, value on your full Bronto no matter what. This is already insane, and yeah, something needs to be done about drawing 3 cards for virtually no cost. But that's Vanquisher. I'm going to move on to the final piece, and possibly my personal favorite, just because of how insane it is, and again, it just gives me that warm, nostalgic feeling of end of G era combos. So we come to my favorite, Victor. I know that I am not the only content creator out there who loves Nova Grappler, but again, I just want to show you guys a taste of what it can do. So I'll admit, the hand, when you look at the hand here, this is pretty far from the minimum combo. But again, Nova Grapplers is all about having rear guards that restand and do multiple things. So here, instead of showing you the minimum combo, I want to show you something that I think is at least interesting. This isn't the best combo, but it's interesting. That's the thing to note here. So with the Vanquisher combo, I showed you how many times you can draw cards, how much value you can get off of that. And here we're showing you exactly what you can do with Axels and unlocking GB2. Now here's a card we haven't seen in a long time, Sever Temper. The reason we didn't see much of this card is because his stand effect to get 5k only works on your A, Victor restricted, and B, GB2. And getting to GB2 was also very easy between favorite champ or winning champ and busted, but you missed out on the initial 5k restand, which is why this Son of lost value. This card was good going to like Meteor Kaiser combos or favorite champ combos, but it fell off towards the end of G in favor of big scalers like Sazanda and Magical Performer. But now that we have GB2 very easily from Vic 10, we're all in. So we're going to start by, once again, striding. Again, potentially on our opponent's grade 2, no comments about that. If we have Counterblast, we can use Victor's on-stride effect. We're not going to be doing it multiple times here because we don't have the resources to do so. But if we did, you know, every piece of Counterblast you have is an extended attack. So in this case, we're going to flip the Vic 10 and make 2 Axels. Draw 2 cards. And now we're going to make the board, which is going to be our Sever Temper, which can be our main restand target, followed by a pair of Sazanda, the V Sazanda, who now gives power to things, which is great, and Golshachi, our good friend, and Catchawall, because it's an extender. Now you don't actually need Catchawall here because we're not trying to turbo GB like we are on Winning Champ or Busted, but it's just nice to have. Again, puts it up into the deck, stand triggers are cool, and I just wanted to give an excuse to have Catchawall in a video again. Bite me. So we've got full body on the board. We have 2 instances of restand, one from Golshachi and one from Victor. No worries. We put Malyaki here because this Sever Temper is definitely going to be standing more than once, so we'll be able to abuse the red text that we gain multiple times. So we're going to start with a boost, which is just 16k. Again, it's not a huge number, but it's still pretty good going to your opponent's grade 2, especially considering the number of times you're about to attack them. We're then going to attack with Golshachi, whose effect Counterblast 1 to stand the Sever Temper. Nice. So when Sever Temper stands, he gains some power, then Sazanda gains power and gives him extra power, and he gains red text from Malyaki. Hold on to that, that's going to be important. We're going to attack with Sever Temper, giving power from Malyaki to whoever it needs. He's already huge, so we can just power up these Sazandas. We're then going to attack with our Vanguard, now using Victor's stride skill of on attack, stand a guy, gain some more power from Sazanda, but then remember, we're going to do our drive checks, which are going to be 3 more crits, as has been the case for this video. These on hits have also been errata to be also not on hit. So Vic 10 is going to stand something as well. So now we can either stand the Kachi wall, or we can even stand Golshachi himself. When Golshachi stands, he becomes a 16k base, plus extra power from the Suzander. We have another attack here. We have attacks from Sever Temper again, with Malayaki power going to the Suzanders. I would like put down some numbers and give you some raw calculations on how much shield this is. You know, maybe check at the, I might do it at the end of this video in post-editing, but again, for now, this is just showing you just a glimpse of what is exactly possible. But these Suzanders have seen 3 or 4 restands. You know, maybe if you want to use the Kachi wall, you can stand that, shuffle, whatever, give some extra power to the Suzanders. They're going to be at least 29k each, plus whatever trigger powers you get. Huge, plus whatever power boost from the Malayaki. You know, Malayaki can give 4k to 2 things. So because he stood, he can give both of them 4k each. Twice, because he stood twice, so that's plus 8. The numbers just keep scaling and scaling. And again, I'm not saying that these are by any means solved or perfected combos. There are loads of other better players than me out there who are doing their own playtesting. I'm sure my fellow content creators are definitely going to be looking at stuff that they're excited about and figuring stuff out there. I just wanted to, like, there were just so many thoughts going through my mind that I needed to put them down before I forgot them and just share these with the people, while at the same time, A, reviving the YellowCard combos, and B, reviving this nostalgic table. But yeah, this has been Tabletop Simulator. It's something that we haven't used in a long time. Maybe it'll come back, who knows? But this has been this YellowCard combos. If you want to see more of Victor, Nova, Grappler, whatever else, let us know in the comments below. Tell us, you know, I want to see this combo, I want to see that combo. We'll see what we can do. Like I said, Link Joker 1 is definitely being promised once I solve it and optimize it. But until then, we'll see you all very soon. Take care, have a lovely day, bye bye.